I swear I deleted that. How many different computers do we have that tucked in on that I can't have access to, Megan? Oh, jeez. Well, that's a heck of a way to start the day. How are you? Oh, my. Always assume the camera's on. First rule of broadcasting. It is Monday, the 8th day of July, 2019. This is Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. I'm Dan Kuntz, your host. We're back after a 4-day weekend. 3.5 for a couple of us anyway. It's good to be back. Hope everybody had a good and safe Independence Day weekend. We were off on Thursday, with the exception of Tucker and Megan and myself. We were able to put together the broadcast on a Thursday night from the roof of the Town Toyota Center, the annual Let's Have a Blast fireworks show. Best one yet, I think. It was longer. The closing segment was spectacular. The music was great. Live music from the Wenatchee Valley Symphony Orchestra. We had a great time. The weather cooperated. Huge crowds. Lots of fun. I hope you had a chance to watch it on a Thursday night. And now we're back at it for another exciting week of broadcasting fun on this Monday. Good show for you. Second half of the show, Richard DeRock, who is the general manager of Link, and Dominick Bonny will be joining me. They're going to be talking about Proposition 1, which will be on your ballot on Tuesday, August 6th. If you live within the Link district, the Link Governing Board district, you're going to have a chance to help Link out a little bit. They want to raise just a little bit more money. They want to have more services. It's as simple as that. They want to have more routes, longer days, possibly Sunday service. It was a fascinating conversation. Be an informed voter and pay attention to our conversation in the second half of the program, again with Richard DeRock and Dominick Bonny. Still waiting for summer. It was an unseasonably cool weekend. We only hit 80 yesterday, 82 on Saturday, 84 on Friday. That's all those temperatures were below normal. And wouldn't you know it, people really weren't behaving very well, especially on July 4th. We've talked about this before. This is the Law Incident Summary Report that we get at Rivercom. 3 of the 4 agencies that use Rivercom for their dispatch participate in this. Douglas County doesn't, for reasons that we don't know. They won't tell us anyway. So I took East Wenatchee out of it because fireworks on the 4th was legal in East Wenatchee for reasons unknown. But I can tell you how many fireworks calls that the Chelan County Sheriff's Office and the Wenatchee Police Department went on, and I decided to use those 2 law enforcement agencies because, of course, fireworks are completely banned in Chelan County in its entirety, not only in the unincorporated areas of Chelan County, but in the cities of Wenatchee and Chelan and Manson and Antioch. Fireworks just done. You can't do them. Can't fire them off anymore. Chelan County Sheriff's Office, this is on July 4th only on Independence Day last Thursday. Chelan County Sheriff's Office responded to 26 calls of people setting off fireworks. The Wenatchee Police Department responded to 19 calls, almost all of them, as you might imagine, between about 9 o'clock when the sun went down till into the early hours of the morning. So, again, people just can't seem to break that fireworks habit. Hopefully, and luckily, nobody was significantly injured and no fires broke out. But come on, folks, you're not supposed to set off fireworks. What else we got for you? We got a lot of sports. The United States women's national team wins the World Cup for the 4th time and for the 2nd consecutive World Cup. I watched the game yesterday. We'll talk about that when we get to sports. The Mariners struggled to the All-Star break, lost 2 of their last 10 going in to the All-Star break. We'll talk about that. Apple Sox have a little bit of a good thing going now. Got Apple Sox, also the results of the Wenatchee Valley Super Oval when we get to sports. Plus we got news. Plus we have the obscure holiday. We have Today in History. We have birthdays. We have Everyone is Entitled to Mike Magnotti's opinion. And we have an overcast and fairly cool day, 61 degrees outside of our studio. So let's go around the valley with our Valley View cameras, courtesy of Localtel Sky-Fi high-speed wireless setup. And we begin, as always, with the cross cam at the very tip of Wenatchee Heights. It's adjacent to the cross that we get to see every night. Another beautiful day here in the Wenatchee Valley. But again, if you like summertime, and most people like summertime, sunny and warm, we haven't really had that yet. We had a nice sunny and warm stretch before summer came, but since June 21st, it's kind of been a hit and miss. It's been unsettled, and that's going to continue to be the case for the early part of this week until we get to about Thursday. So no real long warm days. It just hasn't happened yet, and it's going to be the case today and tomorrow as well. Beautiful view. As you can see, the clouds are, we had a beautiful sunrise this morning. Oh, it was gorgeous. At 5:13, we had some high clouds over the East Wenatchee bench, and it was all pinkish and salmon colored. It was just beautiful sunrise. We don't get necessarily great, beautiful sunsets, but our sunrises, I'll take them. They're as good as anybody can get anywhere. Good morning, Wenatchee Valley. From this point forward, Megan decides where we take our tour. She says, let's go up to, is that Leavenworth? That's the Tumwater Canyon, yep. The Tumwater camera, I should say. It's not quite in the canyon. If it was in the canyon, there'd be really nothing for you to see as we look down over the lovely hamlet of Leavenworth, which is mostly to your right there. Beautiful views. It's pointed almost directly to the east. Good morning, Leavenworth. I believe the Sound of Music, their annual extravaganza, their outdoor production of the legendary musical begins this week. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm right on that. And that's a beautiful place to go watch the Sound of Music. Even sing along if you want. Doe a deer, a female deer. I'll stop at that. Camera 3, where are we off to, Megan? Let's say hello to the Wenatchee Valley from our view atop Jump Off Ridge with the Stemilt Basin to your left. And the East Wenatchee area kind of dominates our screen because the Wenatchee Heights abutment that sticks out there kind of blocks the view of Wenatchee. That's a very high camera. And it's actually not that long of a drive from there to, believe it or not, Ellensburg. I mean, you turn around in your Jeep and you drive about 5-6 miles the other direction and you can see Ellensburg from there. Ellensburg and Wenatchee, as the crow flies, isn't that far apart. It's just not as easy to get to. Good morning to the Stemilt area and the East Wenatchee area on this Monday. Finally, camera 4. We go see Billy Goat. Hello, Billy Goat. Good to have you here. That's a beautiful view. Zoomed in just a skosh, way up there above the Pateros area, the Alta Lake area. I was just thinking about this over the weekend. Our record high set back in 2014 was also corresponding with the Carlton Complex fire that was just not good back in 2014 and 2015, the fires that we had. We've had a fairly quiet fire year so far, knock on wood. Last year's was kind of quiet as well, but that Carlton Complex fire, which was basically centered about where you see, was a real difficult time for those people in Pateros and Brewster, and it was just not very fun. I remember that well. Those memories will stick with us for a while. So those are our views from around North Central Washington with our Valley View cameras. It's 7.5 minutes after the hour. From the National Weather Service, your forecast, and it looks something like that. Today, partly sunny. It's a mixture of clouds and sun. It's kind of a 50-50 thing. We're going to top off at 83 degrees. Could see a stray raindrop or maybe even a pop-up thunderstorm this afternoon. There's only about a 20% chance of that, so we didn't bother to put it up graphically. Should expect fairly clear skies tonight, 63 for the overnight low. Tuesday, dry but cloudy. In fact, we'll have some sunshine a little bit on Tuesday morning, but as the day progresses, the clouds will be thickening up. We'll top off in the mid to upper 80s, about 87 on Tuesday. Tuesday night, we do have a chance of rain. It's going to be cloudy, 68 for the overnight low. And that spills into Wednesday when the chance of showers are at its best. Wednesday is going to be cloudy all day. High of about 83, that's below normal. Not a lot of wind, but we could see some rain, and it would be just plain rain. No thunderstorms expected on Wednesday. So we still have unsettled, the atmosphere is just unsettled, really, is all there is to it for today, tonight, Tuesday night, and spilling into Wednesday. And then we go back to seasonably warm temperatures and dry weather on Thursday and right into the weekend. Our first real summertime weekend coming up. We were hoping for, I hope for sunny and warm temperatures because it's July. That's what you're supposed to get. And we're finally going to get a stretch of that once we begin to Thursday with temperatures finally climbing to slightly above normal. Sunrise this morning, it was a beautiful one at 5:13. Sunset tonight at 8:58. The sun goes down now before 9 o'clock. That gives us 15 hours and 45 minutes of daylight. Yeah, the days are getting shorter, but for a lot of people, summertime really hasn't begun yet. If you like it seasonably cool, I guess it's been a great summer so far. I like it a little on the warmer side. 9 minutes after the hour, we're going to take a break. But before we do, we want to thank our friends at Confluence Health for sponsoring this program. Confluence Health, dedicated to providing safe, quality health care for everybody in North Central Washington. Thanks for sponsoring this program, Confluence Health. Grab your cup of coffee, come right on back. We got the news. In 1 minute, you're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley live this morning from Studio 15 in downtown Wenatchee on the NCW Life Channel.
When the people you serve are your friends and family, you see the world a bit differently. You understand that your survival depends on the health and strength of your relationships. Your word is your reputation, and that doing the right thing is the only way of life that matters. At Confluence Health, we remain humble. Trust is a gift that is earned, a privilege, an honor. And we remain grateful for the trust you place in our hands.
Hi, I'm Jim Heinlein, agent here at Senior Insurances of North Central Washington, where we help our clients navigate the Medicare world. One of the things we really enjoy doing is teaching our clients about their rights. Like, did you know that if you have a traditional Medicare supplement, you can change that monthly all year long, regardless of prior health conditions? So if you'd like to know more about your options with Medicare, you can visit us at one of our 5 local offices, as well as give us a call at 888-2600.
We're back 11 minutes after the hour on this Monday. We have a few high clouds, 62 degrees, mixture of clouds and sun today. Highs will be in the mid-80s. Fairly cloudy skies expected on Tuesday and Wednesday with a little bit of light rain possible, then lots of sunshine and warm temperatures for the upcoming weekend. Here's what's making headlines. A man drowned yesterday in a rafting
A year
accident
ago,
on the Wenatchee River. This is according to the Chelan County Sheriff's Office, who sent out this news release last night. A 45-year-old man, a Monitor resident, was floating down the river with his son and a pet pig in separate flotation tubes when the pig fell out about midway between Monitor and the Sleepy Hollow Bridge. The 45-year-old male jumped into the river in an attempt to rescue the pig, but was seen struggling to stay afloat. The victim's adult son yelled to other people on the river and on the shoreline that his father had disappeared under the water. Witnesses were able to locate the pig and take it to the shore, but the missing man, well, he kept going downstream, was eventually located near the Sleepy Hollow Bridge. Deputies entered the river, pulled him to the shore. The victim was declared dead after 20 minutes of life-saving efforts by emergency crews. His name is being withheld until his family is notified. A vehicle drove into Lake Chelan on Friday morning off State Route 150 that caused some traffic delays. All of the occupants of the vehicle were able to get out, according to the Manson Volunteer Fire Department. The accident was on the Chelan side of Rocky Point. The vehicle was fully submerged in the lake. It was removed by a tow truck a few hours later. Well, the Okanagan Sheriff officers, sergeant and deputy who were involved in that June 3rd shooting of a suspect have been cleared, and they are back at work. The shooting was deemed justified after an investigation by the North Central Washington Special Investigations Unit. The suspect, Lance R. Bowers, 37, was treated at Central Washington Hospital for a gunshot injury, then taken to jail. It began with a call about a car on fire on Frosty Creek Road just south of Tonasket. The body of a woman was found in the trunk of that vehicle. A witness told deputies Bowers had been seen leaving the area. They later located Bowers near the Aenis General Store about 2 miles away. When Sergeant Tate Everett and Deputy Isaiah Holloway confronted Bowers, they said he displayed a gun. Both Everett and Holloway fired at Bowers, with one bullet striking him in the torso. By the way, the woman found in the trunk of the car has yet to be identified. Well, Highway 28 outside of Quincy will be closed for a couple of weeks starting today for road and roundabout construction. The closures at the intersection of the highway and F Street Southwest and 13th Avenue Southwest. Motorists will need to use White Trail Road as a detour during the closure. Again, it's expected to last for a couple of weeks. And finally, on this Monday morning, the Chelan County Regional Justice Center, which was built and opened in 1984, has been beset with problems in recent years, but jail officials say progress is being made on turning things around. Our very own Kyle Montgomery met with jail directors and toured the facility last week, and he filed this report.
A year ago, the Chelan County Regional Justice Center was nearing a crisis state in their facility. Workers there said chronic staffing shortages and outdated equipment were putting their lives in danger, and their union even threatened to sue. Overtime hours were piling up, and turnover was becoming all too common at the jail. The county hired former Washington State Patrol Captain Bill Larson as interim jail director to assess the conditions. On a tour of the jail this week, Larson talked about what he saw, the changes that have been implemented, and the state of the outdated jail.
Safety and security being probably the primary, but the reason that there were some deficiencies in that area is because there was a lack of staffing, but also some organizational structure. There was some lack of there's a lack of training. There was a lack of effective policies in place.
It was really that sense of it was starting to kind of get to the point where we were losing some of our quality folks because of that sense of hopelessness. They just said, I can't stay here and do this anymore. And so now we're starting to really lose our quality people, and it started to become an urgent matter that we can't continue to go down this road.
We are pursuing the enhancement of our CCTV camera system because right now we do not have cameras in most of the housing units, and so we have inmates basically free to engage in different kinds of activities without being seen by jail staff.
One of the changes implemented by Larson was a morning bed check done to gain control over a drug problem inside the facility and improve inmate behavior. The bed checks are also part of an incentive program that rewards inmates for keeping the cells clean, among other things. Larson, who plans to stay on as jail director into early next year, said county commissioners have been receptive to his request for more personnel and equipment, but there remains a long way to go.
I agree with the commissioners at this point that there is a critical need to invest in this current jail with the security features that I've mentioned, the cameras and different programs and some maintenance issues and some technology. We have to get that on board in order to operate safely and effectively.
Larson says although a new jail would solve many of the problems they currently face, restoring order, morale, and safety at the current facility will continue to be the focus. With NCW Life News, I'm Kyle Montgomery.
Thank you, Kyle, for that report. We appreciate it. And speaking of the news, we have a newscast that comes your way at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. I believe Eric Grandstrom will be in the anchor chair. Grant is taking today off. Eric is back from assignment, also known as, well, vacation. Whoever's in the anchor chair, we'll have the news for you at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. The NCW Life Evening News at 5, 6, and 10, available for you to watch on demand, either via our live stream, because wherever we're broadcasting, as we are right now, you can go to our website and click on the Watch Now icon, and you can watch it on your personal device, your computer, your tablet, your smartphone, whatever the case may be. Or you can watch it whenever you want to. Late in the afternoon, we'll have the newscast up and running for you, and you can watch it whenever you feel like it. Later on this afternoon into the evening hours, the NCW Life Evening News at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. And you can help us out. If there's a news tip, let us know about it. And all the ways you can get a hold of us, and there are many of them, are right at the bottom of your screen. You can simply pick up the telephone and give us a call. You can go to our Facebook page and drop us a line if you want via the Facebook Messenger. We appreciate that. Drop us an email, news@ncwlife.com. You can go to our website at ncwlife.com and click on the Contact Us icon in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. We try to make it as easy as possible for you to get a hold of us, and we have gotten some pretty good news tips, as a matter of fact, over the last few months. It is 18 minutes after the hour. We're going to take a break. When we come back, a weekend full of sports. We'll wrap it all up for you in a tight little package, plus the obscure holiday today and history birthdays. Everyone is entitled to Mike McNally's opinion. I'm a conversation with Richard DeRock and Dominick Bonny, Proposition 1. You'll be making a decision on Link coming up on August 6th. And we have that conversation coming up in the back half of the program. You're watching a Monday edition of Wake Up in Wenatchee Valley. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I told Mr. Nielsen about Simon. He's the best doctor because I like the medicines like he gives me.
He asks like more questions, and that's why I feel like he's more interested in the health. For me, it means a lot. That means he really cares about, about him.
I like you, Simon, and you're my best friend.
Hi, Justin here, owner of Club Crow Bar and Grill in Cashmere. Club Crow is your place for famous blues, brews, and barbecue. We are your one-stop bar and grill, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. Looking for a fun night out? Join us at Club Crow Saturday nights. We have live bands to rock the night away. Club Crow is bringing comedy to Cashmere. Check out our Facebook page for upcoming dates. Live jam session first Sunday of every month. Club Crow Bar and Grill in Cashmere, the coolest place in town.
20 minutes after the hour on this Monday, let's do sports. The United States women's national team, once again, World Cup champions. The U.S. topped the Netherlands 2-0 to capture their fourth FIFA World Cup title on Sunday morning. Megan Rapone scoring the game's first goal and a penalty kick in the 61st minute. Rose Lavelle scored the backbreaker about 5 minutes later, and the United States proves once again they have the best women's soccer team in the world. So from France to Oregon, not quite the same, is it? Blake Clausen's RBI base hit in the top of the 8th inning broke a 2-2 tie. The Wenatchee Apple Sox would add one more run in the inning to beat the Elks 4-2. On Sunday, Landon Schreier earned his 4th save of the season, working perfectly over the final 2 innings in relief with 3 strikeouts. For more on last night's game, we turn to the voice of the Apple Sox, our good friend Joel Norman.
Sunday night, the Wenatchee Apple Sox picked up a 4-2 victory over the Bend Elks to not only wrap up the first half, but also pick up a 2-1 series victory over the Elks at Vince Guenna Stadium in Bend, Oregon. The Apple Sox led 2-0 going into the bottom of the 3rd inning, but the Bend Elks got on the board with 1 run then, and then would score again in the 6th inning to tie things up, but the Apple Sox would score twice in the 8th inning, and then Landon Schreier tossed the 8th and 9th innings to pick up his 4th save of the season. The Apple Sox have Monday off and then begin second half play on Tuesday when they take on the Elks at Paul Thomas Senior Stadium. With your Apple Sox report, I'm Joel Norman.
Thank you much, Joel. We appreciate it. Wenatchee finishes the first half of the season with a 12-15 record. That was good enough for 3rd place in the North Division. As Joel mentioned, Bend is going to be in town for the first of 3 games tomorrow night, which is, by the way, tomorrow night, the first ever bobblehead night. That's right. The first 400 fans through the gate get a Coyote bobblehead. I'll add it to my collection. Of course, we're going to be preparing for our second broadcast of Apple Sox baseball this Saturday when the Sox host the Bellingham Bells at Paul Thomas Senior Stadium. Our pregame begins at 6:15. The first pitch at 6:35. Eric Granstrom will have the play-by-play. Looking forward to that. Let's take a look at the Les Schwab West Coast League scoreboard from Sunday. Bellingham's Troy Viola broke up a no-hit bid in the 6th inning with a 2-out base hit, but that was the only hit against Victoria's Jack Neely and Aaron Celestino as the Harbor Cats won 8-1. Harrison Spoon hit a 2-run home run for Victoria. The Cats win the first half of the North Division, finishing at 18-9. Austin Bell's 2-run triple highlighted a 4-run 7th as Cowlitz beat Port Angeles 6-3. 15 was the magic number for Corvallis Sunday as the Knights won their 15th straight game by downing Ridgefield 15-5. Briley Knight had 3 of Corvallis' 20 hits, including a 3-run home run, as the Knights claimed the first half title in the South with a 21-6 record. Chase Luttrell and Everett Lau each had home runs as Portland popped Yakima Valley 11-4. The Pickles took 2 of 3 from the Pippins in the 3-game series. And finally, Michael Petrie was 3 for 4 with a couple of RBIs to lead Walla Walla to a 6-3 win over Kelowna. So here's the final first half standings in the West Coast League's North Division. Victoria punching their ticket to the postseason. They won the first half with an 18-9 record. Bellingham second at 16-11. Wenatchee at third at 12-15. Followed by Yakima Valley and finally Kelowna and Port Angeles tying for last at 10-16. Oakland scored 5 runs in the first inning and held on to beat Seattle 7-4 yesterday afternoon at T-Mobile Park. The loss for the Mariners came despite a career day for catcher Omar Narvaez. He went 4 for 4 with 2 solo home runs and 4 RBIs. Seattle finishes the first half of the season 39-55 as Major League Baseball. It's the All-Star break this week. The Mariners' next game will be on Friday in Los Angeles against the Angels. Daniel Vogelbach will be Seattle's lone representative in Cleveland tomorrow night. The home run derby, by the way, is tonight. Also in the American League West on Sunday, George Springer's walk-off base hit in the bottom of the 11th gave Houston an 11-10 win over the Angels yesterday at Minute Maid Park. Rogned Odor's 3-run home run at the top of the 11th gave Texas a 4-1 win over Minnesota. The Astros are 7.5 games in front of Oakland in the American League West, 57-33. Texas 9 games back in third. The Mariners bring up the bottom, as you see there, 20 games out. And finally, it was a long night of racing at the Wenatchee Valley Super Oval Saturday night with not 1, not 2, but 3 double main events. Quincy's Michael Knutson grabbed the checkered flag in both mains for the Jerry's Auto Supply late models. His brother Glenn finished just behind him in both events. Wenatchee's Mike Sims drove to first in both main events for the Dix Heating and Air Conditioning Thunder Cars. Josh Mock was first in the first main for the Plum Perfect Roadrunners. Arlington's Jonah Vick first in the second main for the Roadrunners, and it was Tacoma's Pete Brady finishing first in the main event for the Northwest Pro 4 Trucks. Next race at the Super Oval on July 20th with the Thunder in the Valley Open Wheel Show. They got the Economy Midgets, the Granite Evergreen Super Sprints, the OTRAs, the Northwest Midi Stock Tour, and the West Coast Vintage Racers. And those are just some of the games that people are playing on this Monday morning. And at 25 minutes after the hour, it's time for the obscure holiday of the day today. Today is National Chocolate with Almonds Day. That's a nice combination, chocolate and almonds. I don't know who first thought of putting the two together, but it's a good idea. Whenever I buy a Hershey bar, and I'm not a big candy eater, whenever I buy a Hershey bar, it's always Hershey's with almonds, because almonds are good for you. Almonds reduce the risk of a heart attack. They lower bad cholesterol. They protect your artery walls from being damaged. They help build healthy bones, healthy fats. They help you in weight loss. It lowers the rise in blood sugar and insulin after you eat. Almonds are good brain food. Almonds help the nervous system. Almonds alkalize the body. Almonds do all kinds of good things, and then we combine it with chocolate, and they probably offset each other. Probably shouldn't have said all those great things about almond, because it's almonds and chocolate day today. A nice combination. I don't know who came up with it, but kudos to them. Enjoy some chocolate and almonds together. It's a party in your mouth, and everyone's invited. Today in history at 26 minutes after the hour. This is the 72nd anniversary of some strange reports coming out of Roswell, New Mexico. There's the Roswell Daily Record. Apparently a UFO crash landed just outside of Roswell. It became known as the Roswell UFO incident, and it really started things going, conspiracy theories. At the time, the U.S. military said it was a weather balloon that crashed. Nothing to worry about, nothing to see here. Move along, people. But the conspiracy theory folks wouldn't let it go. They wouldn't let it go. They wouldn't let it go. 50-odd years later, the U.S. military issued their official report on the Roswell incident. They said it was actually a nuclear test surveillance balloon that crashed, not a weather balloon. Either way, they can't seem to make up their mind, and there's still people who think that there's UFOs out there that like crash landed, and they saved the UFO, and they have them in a big, Area 51 and all that stuff. Well, you can start with July 8th, 1947, 72 years ago today, as the beginning of that, whether you believe it or not. This is a weird rock and roll tour. There you go. Jimmy joins the Monkees. July 8th, 1967, 52 years ago today, the Monkees began a 29-date North American concert tour. The opening act was the Jimi Hendrix Experience. It seemed like a good idea at the time. The Monkees wanted credibility. The Monkees were considered the teeny bopper, pop band, and they wanted credibility in the rock and roll community. And Jimi Hendrix wanted a much wider audience for what Jimmy was doing, so they put the two together. It didn't work out very well. 6 shows into the tour, Jimi Hendrix was gone. How would you have liked to go to those shows? Before we bring on the Monkees, here's Jimi Hendrix. That happened 52 years ago today. And 8 years ago today, the Space Shuttle Atlantis, July 8th, 2011, there's the official logo for the Space Shuttle Atlantis. It was launched. It was the 33rd and final mission of the Space Shuttle program. The Atlantis, its job was to simply resupply the International Space Station, because this was the last of the shuttle trips, and so they had the truck full. In fact, only 4 astronauts participated. As you can see, the 4 names are actually on the badge. Normally, space shuttles, there'd be 7, 8, 9 astronauts on board. Only 4. All they had to do was, send the 4 up with a bunch of supplies and a dolly cart. Here's your crackers. Anyway, Space Shuttle Atlantis launched on this date, and that was the end of the Space Shuttle program. Let's do some birthdays. At 29 minutes after the hour, John D. Rockefeller was born in 1839, raised in Cleveland, Ohio, made a lot of money, gave away a lot of money. Of course, he was the founder of the Standard Oil Company, lived a very long time, died in 1937 at the age of 97, considered by almost everybody who measures these things, considered in real wealth, real value, the richest man ever, the richest man in the history of this country. Basically, they take his percentage of personal income weighed against the gross domestic product, and then you adjust for inflation. You take those two things into consideration, and John D. Rockefeller was by far the wealthiest American of all time. He was born in the state in 1839. Johnny Johnson, the great Johnny Johnson, we love that guy, the American pianist and songwriter. He lived a good life, lived to the age of 80. He was born in the state in 1924. He was Chuck Berry's pianist for all those great hits of Chuck Berry, all the way through the 50s and into the early 60s. It's Jimmy Johnson on piano that you hear. And for the most part, most experts, and myself included, agree that Jimmy Johnson probably co-wrote some of the songs that Chuck Berry claimed for himself. He may have even written some of the songs by himself that Chuck Berry later took credit for. In the year 2000, Jimmy Johnson sued Chuck Berry for songwriting credits for 14 different Chuck Berry classics. It was thrown out of court because they said he simply waited too long, but He was eventually recognized with a Congressional Gold Medal, and he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001. A rock and roll legend, Johnny Johnson, born in the state in 1924. Speaking of rock and roll legends, Joe B. Malden was born in this state in 1940. You probably don't know who Joe B. Malden is or was, but I do. He played bass in Buddy Holly's Crickets. He passed away of cancer 4 years ago at the age of 74. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the class of 2012, considered one of the nicest guys in the world, Joe B. Maudlin, born in the state in 1940. And Jeffrey Tambor celebrates a birthday today. He's 75, the actor. He was hilarious as Hank Kingsley in the Larry Sanders Show. Hey Now, Hank Kingsley, then of course Arrested Development, and most recently in Transparent. He also sings occasionally. Jeffrey Tambor is 75 years old today. We are going to take a break. When we come back, Mike Magnotti is going to give you a few tips about tipping. And then my conversation with Richard DeRock and Dominick Bonny, Proposition 1 for Link Transit, will be something that you'll be deciding on the primary election on August 6th. That conversation coming up. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Live channel.
If you want to work in healthcare, choose the program that teaches the skills employers want. The Charter College Medical Assistant Program combines hands-on learning in the lab with convenient online learning, plus real-life experience with an externship. Classes start every 5 weeks, so you don't have to wait to launch your new career. Enroll with confidence, knowing Charter is institutionally accredited by the Accrediting Bureau of Health Education Schools, and be ready to work in less than a year. Charter College. We work to get you to work.
Moving doesn't have to be back-breaking, stressful work. And I don't want you to make a move that way ever again.
Traditionally, you would rent a truck. You would load up your stuff. You would rent a storage unit. You would transport it. And finally, you would unload your stuff yourself. You don't have to lift a finger. We bring the mobile storage unit to you. We drop it off. Then one of our trusted packers can load it for you. We come pick it up and store it securely for you. We bring it back to you. No hassle, no stress.
Spring has arrived here at Town Nissan. So has a new shipment of certified pre-owned vehicles, like this Altima and this Rogue. Each of these vehicles goes through a 167-point inspection. Then we will cover them up to 7 years and 100,000-mile warranty coverage. You'll save thousands on these popular models. How about America's best truck warranty? 5-year, 100,000 miles on the all-new Nissan Titan. Buy smart, own confidence at Town Nissan, behind Costco in East Wenatchee.
Hey, this is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and everybody is entitled to my opinion. Now, I'm not rich by any means, but, you know, I do know where I'm going to go to sleep tonight. It'll be in a warm, safe place. I have a pretty good job. My car starts right away, and I have more than enough clothes to wear, believe it or not. Now, all in all, my life is pretty comfortable. And I like it that once in a while, my wife and I can afford to go out to eat. And so when I do, I leave at least a 20% tip. You know, I figure for some wait persons, this might be their first entry-level job. My waitress might be a single mom or a single dad, you know. The waiter or waitress might be somebody working a second job just to make ends meet. So always, and especially when I say grace at a restaurant, particularly then, I try to be a good tipper. God forbid a waitress should think that Christians are only generous with their talk. Now, this is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and that's my opinion.
Welcome to Boswell's Home Furnishings. Come in and explore their expansive 2-story showroom at your leisure. You'll find comfort and inspiration for every room in your home. Boswell's has been filling customer furniture needs for decades, from contemporary to the classics, for living room, dining room, and bedroom sets. Purchase in-store or create your own unique style. With Boswell's complimentary design service, your vision is their passion. Where would you like to start?
When you visit Harmony Meadows for tennis or their activity center, you need to drop by the Love All Cafe. Drink in a locally roasted Blue Star espresso or enjoy one of their all-natural smoothies. Show your guests the breathtaking mountains and surrounding orchards while enjoying a delightful and healthy lunch. Love All Cafe features varied noshes as well as microbrews and an excellent selection of wines. The Love All Cafe, located at Harmony Meadows in the Chelan Valley, just outside Manson.
And welcome back to Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. I am Dan Kuntz. Way back in 1990, Link went into business. I, for one, was ecstatic about it. I had a record store in downtown Wenatchee, and I loved it. And I was all part of it. I was also part of the Wenatchee Downtown Association, which is one of the impetuses to get Link up and running in the late 1980s. It's been a going concern, a thriving concern for the most part, since 1990. And now, well, it's time to make Link even better than it already is. And my guest today, to my immediate left, is the general manager of Link, Richard DeRock. And to my far left is Dominick Bonny. The ground rules are pretty simple. In Richard's line of work, he can talk informationally wise about Proposition 1, which will be on your ballot come August. And Dominick, who's part of the committee to get this thing passed, can be a little bit more of a cheerleader.
That's right.
I just wanted to make that perfectly clear. You miss LA, Richard, at all?
Oh no. Never miss it.
What brought you up here in 2002? Was it, I mean, you were an LA guy. And...
I talk about human scale communities.
Yeah.
I worked in LA for 17 years running the elderly and disabled system for the county, and it was a great job, and I learned a lot from it, but you never could make a connection to the community, and I really wanted a place where you could actually make a difference and improve things. And we did a lot of positive things in LA, but here you can actually impact people's lives in a really positive way. And the way I just told the board is that you can actually solve problems in a smaller community. You can actually truly make things better rather than just managing the problems, which is, I think, what happens in big cities.
And I think the Link system, and Dominick, you can address this as well, is really kind of like the arterial ebb and flow of the entire north central Washington area. It's almost like a bloodstream, the way it operates. It gets people from where they need to go and how they need to get there affordably.
It is.
And efficiently.
For people who don't have vehicles, for people who can't afford vehicles or are disabled, seniors, I mean, they rely on Link Transit, and without quality public transit, it really brings the entire community down. So that's important why we should all support Link Transit and vote yes.
Proposition 1 in a nutshell. What are we looking at here, Richard?
So the proposal that the board put on the ballot is a 0.2 cent sales tax increase, so 2 cents on $10 purchase. This would be the first increase in the local tax that Link has ever asked for, and the first increase since we started in 1990. And what it is to fund the expansion of the system. We don't need the additional revenue to keep operating the system we have today, but we've kind of maxed out what we can do with the system we have currently. And what this would fund is Sunday service for the first time ever. It would fund service till about 11:30 at night on all the major routes, including up to Leavenworth and Chelan. It would fund a much better Saturday service. We only operate about 20% of our system on Saturdays that we operate Monday through Friday. And then higher frequencies, more convenient service in town. So in the Wenatchee, East Wenatchee area, we'd have more direct service. Right now, it takes a really long time to go from East Wenatchee to Wenatchee. The largest place people live that work at the hospital is East Wenatchee. And the fastest we can get you from East Wenatchee to the hospital is an hour and 15 minutes right now, because it takes 2 transfers. Mm-hmm. This would provide direct service between those communities and the businesses on this side of the river, so that we can make commuting much more viable and actually take some pressure off of the 2 bridges.
How was this decision came to be with the, I mean, obviously public input? How did the people decide this is what we'd like? Longer days, Sunday service, that kind of stuff. How were those decisions arrived
We
at?
reached out to the community starting in 2016, and we went out and said, what should be the future of Link Transit in our community? And we got about 1,600 responses to that first survey, which gave a whole list of things people wanted to have in the community. We took that list, went through and identified what we can legally do. People asked for service to Seattle, asked for services that are not within our authority to do. Took those out of it, figured out what the cost would be to actually meet what people ask, and went back out. We mailed a survey to every single residence in our two-county area and said, okay, this is what you told us you were interested in. What are you willing to pay for? Because this is going to take additional revenue to do it. And it was an interactive survey where people could pick off the services they liked, and that showed them what the impact on the sales tax was for them. And 67% identified that about a 2/10 level of additional services, about $5.5 million a year additional expenditure, would fund what they wanted to do. And number one on the list was Sundays. I think 83% of the people who responded wanted Sunday service.
People still need to go places on Sunday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things in the survey when we dug through it was people that were asking for the service were much more non-riders than riders. The riders actually make use of what we have. It was people were telling us, I would use the bus, but you don't operate when my job is. We don't operate Sundays, we don't operate second and third shift coverage. We were also hearing from the businesses, that's a huge issue for them. We don't really serve the tourist market in our community for the service workers, which is a big part of our economy because we don't operate Sundays, we don't operate Saturday evenings. And so it really looked like what we were hearing was really an investment in the economic health of our community and trying to meet all the sectors of our economy as opposed to just the Monday through Friday 8 to 5 jobs.
So Joe Q taxpayer would say, well, if you're being funded by sales tax, and isn't the economy doing great? People are buying things, and isn't the sales tax revenue in and of itself rising?
And that's absolutely true. And we've been able to take advantage of those increases to expand service. We have added a bit of service till about 9 o'clock at night on the 3 major routes in Wenatchee. We added 1 additional trip from Leavenworth. And so that's been a benefit, and it's allowed us to grow the system. We've gone from 500,000 trips a year to a little over 1 million in the last 8 years in ridership. And we've done that through internal growth and through approaching for grants and so forth. But what we identified was that to make a substantive change, a significant change, was going to take more than that type of growth was going to allow us to do. We can continue operating what we do. We can continue to make minor improvements. And if the voters choose not to pass it, that's what we'll do. But this is an investment in a different vision for transit. It's the idea of a more comprehensive system that meets a lot more of the needs in the community. And that's really what we're asking people to consider is it time for our valley to have a more comprehensive transit system that really goes beyond the needs of people who don't have choices, which is really significant.
Sure.
34% of our population doesn't have a driver's license in this state. And that's one of the primary reasons we use taxpayer support to run public transportation. But if we can start making services that are really competitive with the car, that really make sense, we can start addressing things like the congestion we're seeing on North Wenatchee Avenue or the bypass issues we have on the South Bridge and other areas that, we're not Seattle, and I hope we never get there in terms of congestion.
Amen to that.
But we are growing, and we're growing enough that we're starting to see some of those urban issues, and transit's a way to address some of those questions that actually can be relatively inexpensive.
Dominic, we talked about this off camera. We'll talk about it on camera now. Again, Joe Q taxpayer chiming in saying, I never use Link. Why should I vote? Why should I vote yes on Prop 1 when I've never been on a Link bus in my life?
Sure. Well, I would say if you have sat in traffic, then you should vote yes on Link Prop 1 because it's going to do a lot to relieve congestion. Another thing that I would have to say is that when you live in a community and you are a person of means, or you're a person who can afford to have a vehicle or 2 vehicles, we need to think about the least in our community. That's a Christian value that I believe in. And when you think about the least among us, you realize that 2 cents out of every $10 is really nothing. It's not that much at all. You buy a cup of coffee and you can feel good about yourself because you're supporting our public transit that gets people who have disabilities to where they need to go, to the doctor. I met a man named Cruz Martinez on the bus. He uses Link Transit. He had to move from Moses Lake to Wenatchee many years ago, decades ago, because he could not be a teacher in Moses Lake School District because there was not any sort of service like Link Plus. So he moved here, and worked until retirement as a coach and a teacher at Orchard Middle School. Link Plus was instrumental in getting him to work and making sure that he had, he was a citizen just like everyone else, a tax-paying, contributing citizen, not a shut-in. The same thing with people who have disabilities like epilepsy. They can't be behind the wheel of a car. And this is what they need to get around, to do shopping, to have a sense of independence. And for 2 cents of every $10, that's a donation that I'm willing to make.
I did the math in my head. That comes out to about $2 a month per tax. That's just what I'm not good at math. Is that about right?
I think that's about right. Yeah.
That's the calculations we've made, and that was based on what people have reported on their taxes, what they spend, and IRS data that we were able to come through for the average taxpayer in our area. And of course, if you buy more, it would cost more, but that's the average for our area is $2 a month.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Way less than a cup of coffee, actually.
Sure,
I need to correct myself, because if you drink, a latte, that's $4 or $5 nowadays. For way less than a cup of coffee every month.
It seems to me also it'd be a good time for people who want to downsize, like their automobile. Running an automobile, you got to put gas in it, you got to put oil in it, you have to have it maintained, you got to pay insurance on it. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Nope.
If you ditch a car and ride the bus.
Exactly.
The average cost of owning a car in the United States right now is about $9,400 a year. Transit, when you figure the fares into it, costs someone less than $1,000 a year to get around. While we don't ever believe that Link or this area could support a system that allows people to truly be totally car-free, whether that's family or elsewise, our goal is something that allows a family to actually choose to be a single-car family, that they can meet their daily work needs, they can get groceries and so forth on the bus, and the people that don't have choices can actually have true access to everything that they need.
Well, proof positive. In fact, you brought one of these. Mike McNaughty's daughter, Marie, is a part of this group. That they did the same thing. They got rid of a car, and she gets around most of the time on Link.
They did. Yep, they had a car accident over the winter time. The insurance company totaled their car, and they said, well, why don't we take this opportunity to see if Link can function as a secondary vehicle? And so Dad uses the vehicle. She has a more flexible work schedule as a social worker, and she uses Link, and it works for her family. And it's really cool because she's showing the next generation, her daughters and her kids, how to use Link Transit to get around. On these systems, you can be on and off 15 minutes downtown, off, when you have a bus pass. It really gives you a lot of freedom.
My next door neighbor, my former next door neighbor, I should say, lost her driver's license. He, became a senior citizen. They basically said, you shouldn't operate an automobile anymore. She goes, well, I still want to go around and I want to do things. I want to see my friends. I want to go to the senior center. I want to go to movies. And she made the transition to Link, and she went, why didn't I do this 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's really easy, and it's the cool thing too is the Link Transit ambassadors and Pete Kapler, who is a travel trainer. He will sit there with you on the bus and tell you exactly what you need to do, where you need to get off, where you need to get on, to make sure that your route is the most efficient that it can be. There are resources there, and so there's no reason that you need to be, mucking through the thing by yourself or online. There's literally resources of people who will teach you how to use Link Transit. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Another, again, Joe Q taxpayer chiming in. I say, why don't you just raise the rate? What is it, $1 now? I'm trying to remember what it was.
It's $1 in town. It's $2.50 for the long trips.
So why don't you just make it $1.25 and $2.75, and will they take care of it?
Well, I would say too that a lot of these folks are on fixed incomes. So people like Marge Drake, who uses Link Transit every day, just about to get from Leavenworth to Wenatchee. She teaches exercise classes. They're called SAIL classes, senior exercise classes at the senior center. She's on a fixed income. So a couple bucks for somebody like me who has income coming in, has a job, is okay, well, I can make that work. A couple bucks when you are on a fixed income, and maybe that's a low fixed income, that is the equivalent. You start thinking about, what am I cutting out of my monthly budget? Am I cutting prescription meds? Am I cutting food? What am I cutting here?
And fares generate a very small part of the cost of the system. About 7% of the cost of operating the regular buses are covered by fares, and that's pretty typical for rural areas. Even the biggest system in our state, King County Metro, runs about 23% of the cost through fares, and that's sort of the best you can do in transit. So we could raise fares, and we've done fare increasing. We've more than doubled our fares over the last 15 years, actually. But there's real price sensitivity, as Dominick mentioned, and we saw the last fare increase we did in 2012, we went to $1.25. And we lost more ridership than we gained in revenue. We also, and what we found families walking their kids down the street that used to be on the buses on streets that didn't have sidewalks. And the board looked at that and looked at the fact that we weren't making any money off of it and said, well, let's go back to the dollar, because that really seems to be the price point in town. And when we interviewed our riders, what we heard was there really is an income driving issue. The average income of our riders is pretty low. We have a lot of low-income people living in our community, and that's a big part of who we serve.
And that's exactly, that's a very important point. And from a business standpoint, one of the reasons I loved Link when it first fired up in the early 1990s, I mentioned this briefly, I had a record store in downtown Wenatchee. And for me, it was a godsend because every Saturday, every Saturday when the bus would come down from Chelan, it would be all of these kids who did all of their music shopping in Wenatchee, and they were too young to get a driver's license, and so they would you would literally see them pile off the bus and walk into my record store and spend their hard-earned allowance on music. And I went, thank you, Link, I loved it.
Absolutely.
And I know it's still for people in like Chelan who have appointments that can only be taken care of in Wenatchee, and they don't have any other means of transportation.
Right.
It's a Link thing all the way.
Well, and there's one other piece to that. There's been a lot of research that shows in small urban areas, rural areas like us, for every dollar we spend on public transit, we get about a $3.50 return to the economy. It's actually one of the few government expenditures that actually generates income to the community, and it is part of that economic base of our community.
Where do you find your drivers? They seem awfully nice for a job that can sometimes be not so pleasant.
We recruit locally. All our people are come out of the local area. We train, so we hire people that don't know how to drive a bus, but we really hire for the guest services experience. And we call our riders guests. We don't call them customers or passengers. We really try to create that guest environment. And that is what we're looking for, someone to do that. And it really is different. I've been in transit for almost 40 years now, and the 17 years I've been in Wenatchee, I call it heaven, both because it's a great community, but it's also, my staff is just wonderful. We get more compliments most months than we get complaints, because the people really go out of their way to make a good environment. And that's also a commitment that if the voters pass this, we will continue that guest services philosophy. We'll hire people that are going to deliver that quality that allows people to take advantage of this and really gives it the broader benefit. It's not just another governmental service. It's something that people can actually be proud of.
You see this on social media. I have to address it while they're here. Well, there goes another empty Link bus on its route. There's some myths and misconceptions to that.
Sure.
Which one of you two want to address that?
I'll take that.
Yeah.
So, it's the most common thing people hear. And, when the bus goes past you, it might be empty. On average, our buses carry 13 passengers every hour they're in service. Now, that's not a Seattle number. Seattle runs at about 35 passengers an hour, but 13 is fine for a rural area. And that's a combination. That includes our route that goes to Ardenborough, which carries 2 passengers an hour, or our route that runs between Columbia Station and the Wenatchee Valley Mall. That one's running at almost 35 passengers an hour. When you average it all out, it works out to 13. And the way buses work is people get on and get off on stops. And so that bus that goes over to the East Wenatchee Valley Mall, you'll rarely see more than 10 or 12 people on it at any one time, but it turns over 3 times between here and there.
Sure.
And so it carries lots of people. The routes that come down from Chelan and Leavenworth, they tend to look full in the morning. You'll see 35 people.
Yeah.
You'll see 35 people on them, but because that route's an hour and a half long, it actually runs at a lower productivity than the one in town that looks like it's less empty. But overall, it works well for our community, and in fact, the feds reward us because we operate at a performance that's actually higher than the average of larger systems.
And as you see, the people who use the park and ride, they park in Leavenworth or in at the Big Y. They have a park and ride there. They have them, of course, in Old Station all over the place. They don't have to worry about driving. They can listen to their music. They can read their Kindle. They can read the paper, and somebody else is driving.
Yep.
And that's a nice peace of mind to have.
Yeah.
We are almost out of time. Dominick, I want to give you the last word on Proposition 1. The voters are out there. What you want them to vote yes, and you want them to vote yes. Why, Dominick?
Well, you should vote yes because, and this is my personal opinion, but I think that Link Transit is very well managed. And I think that when something is so well managed and that it has been a proven good investment for our community, that we should reinvest, and invest more, because what we're going to see from this management is more benefit for our community. The cost is very small, and the rising tide floats all boats. Again, I think that it is our duty as community members to care about the least of us, and that includes our elderly, our senior citizens, our disabled folks, our second and third shift workers who need and rely on the bus to get where they need to go for medical, for groceries, and especially for an income. If we want to back and support people lacing up their bootstraps and making something of their lives, then we need to support the infrastructure that will allow them to do just that. So that's why I'm voting yes.
If you go to the Link Transit's website, linktransit.com, you'll see the Vision 2020 tab there. Click on it. Every conceivable question you could possibly ask about this is on the website. I don't know who did it, but it's a darn good job. Again, congratulations to everybody. Last question, is this a simple majority to pass Prop 1 or super
Simple majority?
Simple majority, so 50 plus 1, and that's all it takes, and it'll be in your August ballot. Dominick, Bonny, and Richard DeRock, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate
We're
it.
watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. We'll be right back.
I'm Tom from Alpine Air Heating and Cooling. At Alpine Air, we think of ourselves as customer service oriented retailers. When you make an appointment, please visit our store, meet our people, see our shop. We are serious about heating and air conditioning. Carrier and Alpine Air are offering huge factory rebates and financing options for all your needs. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Alpine Air. Call for your free replacement estimate. Heat and air, call Alpine Air, 662-6846.
Is search engine optimization right for my business? Maybe. Studies show the first and second search results get 50% of all the clicks. But you have to fight national chains to get there. If the user has to scroll down to find you, tough luck. You could hide a dead body on page 2 and the whole zombie apocalypse on page 3. Or you could spend less and get an ad in the Impact Big Print phone book, giving local businesses a chance to shine.
Impact Directories. Bigger print, better book.
Family roles change with time. You may find yourself being an unpaid caregiver to a loved one. Caregiving can be rewarding, but also stressful. Taking care of yourself is vital. Aging and Adult Care of Central Washington has low or no cost services for unpaid caregivers, such as in-home support, care supplies, and counseling. Connect in your local area by calling Aging and Adult Care at 800-572-4459 and mention you're interested in caregiver support.
There was a time when you had to travel a great distance to enjoy premium wine and food pairings. Now you can experience it right here in North Central Washington. Surround yourself with the beauty and romance of the Lake Chelan Valley and enjoy some of the finest winery restaurants in the world. Get your taste of adventure at Siren Song Vineyard Estate and Winery, Wapato Point Cellars Winemakers Grill, or Sorrento's at Chelan Cellars. All three have their own style and unique charm. Now you're less than an hour from excellence.
And we're back here live from Studio 2 in downtown Wenatchee. Let's close out this Monday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley with a look at your weather forecast. From the National Weather Service, still unsettled, and it's going to be that way really through Wednesday. Best chance of measurable precipitation is going to be on Wednesday. We have about a 30% chance of showers. Then for today, mixture of clouds and sun with an afternoon high 83, 82, right around there. Clear tonight, 63 for the overnight low. Then we move ahead to Tuesday. Tuesday morning, we'll have sunshine. By Tuesday mid-morning, the clouds will be thickening up, and by sunset Tuesday, we'll have a lot of clouds and a high of 87. So we have about a 30% chance of showers Tuesday night into Wednesday. Very little chance of thunderstorms, though. They don't really expect the Wenatchee Valley to get any. But up in the Omak, Okanagan area and in the Methow Valley, you could still see a pop-up thunderstorm today, but we don't think it's going to happen. Wednesday night, we start clearing out. By Thursday, we're in for a nice long stretch of sunny and warm weather. Again, it was below normal temperatures on Saturday and Sunday. It was a cooler and cloudier Independence Day weekend than we're used to having around here. But on the good news, because of that, we didn't really have any significant fires pop up, and we're always grateful for that. Everybody have a great Monday. Provided the show isn't canceled, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.